Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm very happy to have you here, guys. As you can see from today's title, I want to share my thoughts on one of Lattafa's latest releases called Khamrah Qahwa. If you have tried the OG Khamrah, I want to compare it to that fragrance. I want to let you know if they are similar, if it is redundant to have both, if they are different, what are their differences, which one I prefer more, which one I would recommend you to try overall. So yes, it's safe to say, you guys, that the OG Khamrah, it has broke the internet, honestly. Like that fragrance, everybody and their mother have tried it, have smelled it, have bought at least a sample, a decant, a full bottle, some blindly, some they tried it before, some have backups of the fragrance. Some love it, some completely are like head over heels in love with that fragrance, but at the same time, let's just say that a few, like a small minority of people, at least from the feedback that I received on my videos, they don't really see the hype behind the fragrance. They don't really think it's nothing out of this world. Now I have to say, I have it right here with me, the OG Khamrah, and I have a decant of the Qahwa. Flanker. This is a flanker to this fragrance. Now, personally, even though it's not one of my most worn fragrances, it's not that like grab and go kind of fragrance for me, at least not at the moment, but I love the smell, and I love that smell. It's because I find it very nostalgic, you guys. To me, it makes me remember when I was a little kid, and here in Romania, at McDonald's, like back in the day, like let's just say like 2005 or something like this, you could hold birthday parties there. And I remember when I was a kid and some of my friends had birthday parties there, because it had like a playground for the kids with like a clown and everything. This smells to me like McDonald's apple juice. So this brings me all the way back in my childhood, you guys. So this for me is a very nostalgic fragrance. And I have lots of good memories associated with this kind of scent profile. So yeah, I love how it smells like. Now, is this my #1 fragrance? Is this the kind of fragrance that I couldn't picture my fragrance collection without? Honestly, it's not, but I enjoy it a lot for how it smells. I enjoy it for the moments it makes me think of when I was a little kid. So overall, I'm very happy to have this fragrance in my collection. It works amazing for layering, you guys. It works amazing. Now, this fragrance, on the other hand, I was so curious to try this fragrance. Honestly, I didn't want to blind buy it, because at least here locally, the prices are like crazy for this fragrance. And I'm like, slowly but surely, in like a year or two, if Lattafa's new releases will get a lot of hype, they will reach designer prices. Like when I see some prices for the actual, when I see certain prices for some of the Lattafa fragrances, I'm like, it's a joke. But yeah, let's just leave all these things aside and let's start with the video. By the way, if you have both, or if you have tried only one of these two, I would absolutely love to hear your feedback. Please, guys, if you don't mind, share your thoughts about these fragrances in the comment section, because like I always say, and I know I sound like a broken record, but I genuinely mean it, everyone who's interested in trying out this fragrance, or perhaps the other fragrance, the OG Khamrah, I'm sure they could really use your feedback as well. Doesn't matter if you like it, if you don't like it, as long as you keep it respectful. Please, I invite you to share your thoughts on the fragrances in the comment section. So let's just start. First of all, you guys, quickly, in case you haven't tried this fragrance, or in case you haven't smelled it ever, I want to let you know how this one smells like, but like briefly, just like few words. I have an in-depth review for the fragrance, so feel free to watch the video if you want to hear me go in depth there. Yeah, I will try to leave the video linked somewhere in the thumbnail. Oh my god, in the description box. Yes. So let's see how this fragrance smells like. It legit smells, you guys, like if I close my eyes, it smells like a warm glass of McDonald's apple juice. Few cinnamon sticks in there, like you swirl it very well. It legit smells like this. It smells like a drink in the opening, not necessarily like an alcoholic beverage, but it smells like, I've said, like a glass of warm apple juice from McDonald's. To me, this definitely has something that smells very apple-y-like, but not apple in like a baked apple pie type of apple accord. Let's just say more like an apple juice, but like a McDonald's apple juice. I'm telling you, why I put emphasis on McDonald's apple juice is because if you've ever smelled it, you know the kind of smell I'm talking about. And lots of people in the comment section under that video, under that review, or they said that they get the same vibe. So yeah, very spicy, very sweet, very warm. This fragrance, it feels extra warm in the opening, but at the same time it feels very rich in a sense. It's definitely not a flat fragrance. It has depth, it has density to it. It's a rich fragrance. It also has listed a date accord. Now, I have to say, in the first few months of having this fragrance, I can't say that I really picked up the date accord. Like, in the sense that I was smelling the fragrance and I'm like, oh yeah, this smells like dates. But now, after I got to sit and to develop even more, sorry for the noise, since I had it, I have to say I do pick up a slight date accord, but it's the type of accord that feels very rich, warm, sticky and sweet. So I'm guessing that's the date, but I feel like this will get to shine as the fragrance starts to develop. It's very spicy, but it has that type of spiciness that I adore. Oh, I love that type of spiciness. It's like this sweet, warm, sexy type of spiciness. It's not the kind of spiciness that's sharp, it's not the kind of spiciness that's green. It's a beautiful, warm, sweet, spicy facet that I'm obsessed with. So yeah, as it starts to develop, let's just say a few different notes come into play as well. You also get a slight woody hint, a slight powdery hint. But for more info on how the OG Khamrah develops, watch that review, please. Let me spray Khamrah Qahwa. You guys, this fragrance, I didn't really know what to expect. I mean, of course, like I looked up the notes, you know, and if I will insert the notes for both of these fragrances as a reference so you can compare them. So I was expecting, of course, lots of coffee, lots of spices, maybe a bit sweeter, but besides this, I didn't really know how much of the OG DNA it still has. Right as I spray it, it's not the most projecting fragrance, I feel like. I mean, I still smell this one in the air. I feel like this one is actually a little bit more projecting. Yeah. You guys, from the start, they do share similarities. However, to me, after that, let's just say they go in their different directions. Of course, both have that Khamrah DNA. Now, remember how I said that with the OG Khamrah? It smells like apple juice to me in the opening, or when I smell it from the cap, from the nozzle. This one doesn't. This one, you guys, opens up with an explosion of spices, and the kind of spices that I love. Those like sweet, sexy, delicious spices. To me, smells like lots of powdered ginger. Again, not the refreshing kind of ginger that feels very vibrant and energizing. It's more that powdered ginger, you know. So it's almost to my nose a little bit sweeter, and it's definitely, this doesn't have anything refreshing about it. And cardamom, you guys. This ginger and cardamom combo is so beautiful. And look, I love spices in fragrances, so bear in mind, I love spices in fragrances. Like, I adore them. So I might be a bit biased when I say, but I much more prefer the opening of this fragrance, you guys. This fragrance. Yeah, now, to me, in the opening, you have the spicy accord that really shines. It's sweet, it's warm, but it feels at the same time, like I've mentioned, it feels very warm, but it feels extremely powdery, extremely, almost so powdery that it feels dusty when you smell it, if you can picture this. It's, imagine like grounded spices, you know, like grounded ginger, grounded cardamom, but not freshly grounded cardamom, because the greenness of cardamom that it naturally has it, you know, it doesn't shine as much here. To me, it's that after smell of cardamom, you know, that let's just say cardamom powder has after it gets to sit for a while. This is the type of cardamom that you have here, so it's not overly, again, green and fresh and spicy and energizing and this kind of effect. To me, both of these work together in creating a sweet, warm, spicy accord that feels extremely dusty when you smell it, you guys, like powdery dusty. And right as I'm smelling the fragrance, as I'm smelling the ginger and the cardamom, right behind it, I get the coffee. But the coffee, it's not really your espresso style of coffee. It's neither your very earthy, deep, patchouli coffee balsamic take, you know, on coffee. Let's just say like you have in Kafia 1 from Ajmal, like you have in coffees from Parfums. It's not that take on coffee, but it's neither your intense cafe, mocha wood, ristretto, intense cafe, coffee addict from Theodoros Kalotinis. It's neither that type of coffee. To me, the coffee here, it feels in a sense powdery, creamy. I don't know why, or maybe it feels powdery, but it has a creamy base in a sense that gives a lot of creaminess to the fragrance in the background. But yeah, to me the coffee is not the main thing that I smell when I smell this fragrance. As I'm smelling it now, I'm hit with the spices, but when I say I'm hit, I mean in the most pleasant way possible, because I love how the spices play in this fragrance. So yes, I get the spices, I get the coffee right behind it that follows again that like slightly powdery, slightly dusty feel. I get more of the date accord here. Definitely more of the date accord than I get apple. To me, when I smell this fragrance, I get no apple juice resemblance, you know? but I get the date accord. It feels warm, it feels very round, it feels very full and dense and sweet, but the kind of sweetness that feels almost a little bit sticky. But imagine you have the date accord paired with something very creamy, almost a little bit gourmand leaning in the background. It smells as if you were to have a bowl with something creamy and gourmand. Let's just say like, yeah, like date pudding, I don't know, something like this. And then imagine you were to throw like grounded spices there, you know, so the powdery texture mixes a little bit with the creamy texture, but in a sense it feels like layered, you guys. It legit feels like the powdery, dusty nuances of the fragrance. They sit on top of that creamy accord, but it creates a beautiful effect in a sense, and it creates again a very layered effect, it adds a multifaceted aura to the fragrance. Again, this fragrance doesn't feel flat, it doesn't feel thin, you know, it actually has lots of richness. I can say that it's a dark fragrance. I find no dark, deep, grounding aspect about this fragrance, but it's creamy and it's warm and it's very dense, this I have to say. Yeah, I'm telling you, this creamy aspect, it's so interesting because this is the kind of creaminess that I don't detect in the OG Khamrah. There I feel like even though you have lots of warmth, lots of richness, it's not the creaminess that you have there, you know. I feel like in that fragrance other notes shine more, whereas in this fragrance this creamy accord that again sits behind the spices and the coffee, it legit feels so creamy that you can almost touch it or taste it, you know what I mean? Yeah, legit, like spices with the date pudding, with something very creamy almost, like, I don't want to say lactonic, because it doesn't really go lactonic, but something creamy, vanillic, creamy like a date pudding type of creaminess, you know? And to me, what are the common nuances that you have in both of these fragrances? You have that warm, dense, rich, sweet aura. You have it in both fragrances, with the cinnamon, of course, but I feel like here the cinnamon is actually a little bit more in the background. But you have the cinnamon with that warmth element, that rich, warm, dense element that you have in both of the fragrances. It's almost like a slight resinous accord without actually smelling ambery per se, you know, or without actually smelling resinous per se, you know, but it feels very full-bodied, it feels very rich. And then as the fragrance starts to develop, I feel like again, you have in both of the fragrances, you have that dry, soft, woodsy nuance in the background, just acting more of like a supporting role, you know. It's not the kind of woody accord that overpowers the fragrance by any means. But yes, you guys, they are definitely different. I mean, look, I get a lot of differences between these two fragrances. I get the similarities as well. This one, this Qahwa, I actually feel like men could pull it off easier because I don't want to say that it's less sweet, because this fragrance definitely has sweetness, but keep in mind you have the spicy facets there with the coffee. Now yeah, let me get back to the coffee. I wanted to say how the coffee accord smells like to me in this fragrance. To me, I don't know why, but it smells like powdered coffee in a sense, you know, like, but not the kind of powdered coffee that you buy in like packets and you mix it with water, you know. It's not the kind of coffee that feels overly realistic, overly flavored or anything like this. And to me, actually, like the ratio between the spices and the coffee, I get to my nose definitely more spices than coffee, and definitely more creamy date pudding with something creamy in the background than coffee. I feel like the coffee, let's just say, it's mixed there within the spices, you know, like as I smell the fragrance and as I get the ginger, the cardamom, the cinnamon, I get coffee like hints in the background, but it's never the coffee that shines the most in this fragrance. So keep this aspect in mind. If you're looking for a fragrance that's coffee dominant, I'm not really sure if that's the fragrance, but if you're looking for a fragrance with beautiful, sweet, spicy facets that smell... They smell delicious, you guys. It smells delicious, and with that creamy date pudding-like facet in the background. And it's interesting because as this fragrance starts to develop on your skin, among everything that I've said so far, you'll also start to detect some slight, soft, airy whiffs, and the fragrance, in a sense, starts to lose a little bit of the warmth as it starts to develop and as it starts to go to the dry down. Yes, now to sum up my thoughts on Khamrah Qahwa. It's a beautiful fragrance. They created a beautiful fragrance. It smells beautiful, it smells wearable, it smells likable, yet it manages to stand out in its own unique way. I don't feel like you will have an issue wearing this fragrance. Of course, as long as you enjoy spices, as long as you enjoy a little bit of sweetness in your fragrance, if you don't mind a little bit of creaminess there, you know, if overall you enjoy, like you naturally enjoy the kind of notes this fragrance is made around, you will enjoy this fragrance. I feel like they start to get more and more similar as both of the fragrances get to the last bit of the dry down. Then it's almost like they are stripped of all the other notes and you get to the DNA of the fragrance, you know, you get to the common DNA that both of these fragrances share. Like, but in the opening they are very different notes shine, like completely different notes shine in the opening. In the heart I start to detect a little bit more of the Khamrah DNA here, but I feel like at the same time the Khamrah DNA here it's covered in different notes and accords, so it still goes into a different direction. But in the dry down it's when these two fragrances are the most similar to my nose. Both are slightly sweet, slightly woodsy, slightly date sweetness in the background, you know, something like this, with a little bit of powderiness, a slight cold airy whiff. So which one would I recommend between these two fragrances? I don't know because it's very hard, because of course we all have our own unique taste when it comes to fragrances. Test both. If you have the possibility, test both. Look for samples, look for decants and see which one you prefer. But if you wanted something that leans more apple pie-like with a little bit of a date sweetness in the background, very warm, very full, very dense, very drinkable in a sense, even though this doesn't smell like an alcohol beverage, let's say, go for the OG Khamrah. If you wanted something, let's just say, with a twist, perhaps you have this one and you were looking for something very similar with this to this fragrance, but with a twist of its own, then go for Khamrah Qahwa. But is it redundant to have both in your collection? Again, I cannot give you just like yes and no. It depends what you're looking to add to your collection. If you're the kind of person that doesn't like to have multiples of specific scent profile, then yes, it will be redundant to have both, because like I've mentioned, even though they clearly go in their different directions in the heart and in the opening, and then in the heart, but they meet again in the dry down, you know, and throughout the whole development of both of these fragrances, you are able to smell that common DNA. Imagine that common DNA that I told you in the beginning of the video, but with added notes, and then as both of the fragrances, let's just say, they get from the opening till the dry down, they get stripped down of all the other nuances and they get to a common DNA. So yes, this is pretty much everything I wanted to say. Yeah, surprisingly, none of these two fragrances I feel like are beast mode kind of fragrances on me. With this fragrance I get around 6 hours on my skin. Of course I haven't tried it on clothes, I haven't done like a full wear test, but if you have, I would love to hear your thoughts on the performance of the fragrance. So if you don't mind that, please share it down below. Now, one thing I don't like about this, you guys, is the prices that they give, because look, to me this fragrance, I bought it anyways under like $35 to $40, and I feel like for that price it's worth it. But I see this fragrance online for around $60 something, and look, I know usually in the US Middle Eastern fragrances are naturally more expensive, but I have to say here in Romania they're extremely affordable, perhaps with like $10–15 more than the price in the Middle East. So I feel like to see this fragrance for almost like a 50 ml designer fragrance price, I'm like, it's a little bit overpriced in my opinion. Not this one per se, this one, the Qahwa version. I do feel like it's a little bit overpriced. Perhaps wait for a special offer or a special deal to get it, you know, or definitely wait a little bit till the hype around this fragrance tones down and then purchase it at a better price. I feel like this is everything I wanted to say. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget you can follow me on Instagram. Here is my handle. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Leave me a comment down below. And yes, I will see you in my next video, but until then, thank you so much for watching and I want to wish you an amazing day wherever you are. Bye guys!